Let's call the meeting to order. This is, of course, is a work session, so we'll move right down the list as to things that we'll cover on next Monday evening. Mr. Gully will cover the invocation. Shane Burton will do the pledge. We'll have approval of the minutes and announcements. We'll have an opportunity for citizen response. I'll give a report and update on a number of things, including where we are with the jail and the courthouse. We'll have committee reports. Number 11 will be electing a chair and a chairman pro tem again for the next year. We'll have a couple of appointments that are in there. I think they're in your notes as to who they'll be. We'll bring up A.B. Harper for planning and Kelsey Dickens for the library board. Under resolutions, we will be looking at the resolution 2023-26-795 involving the EMS billing waiver. Commissioner Overman, do you want to address that at this point?
I really don't know where this came from. I don't know anything about this. My opinion is it goes back to the committee so we can learn about it.
I think your recommendation is going to be to take it back to committee. Okay, so we'll address that on Monday evening. We'll have public hearing and I'm sorry.
Who did bring this for the commission? Who brought it?
It was brought up because of some concerns by some employees as to whether or not their ambulance fee would be waived. And so we were addressing the language as to who all would be included. And
Did our director know about this?
sir,
Does Matt know about this?
I think it's been discussed with Matt, but if it's not, it will be. Under ordinances, we'll be doing, if I get to moving too fast, y'all let me know. We'll be having a public hearing and a second reading on two ordinances. Ordinance 295, 2023, 32 on the issue of nepotism, which we discussed in work session and before the court. And then ordinance 296, 2023, 33, amending zoning resolution section 5.0445. You have before you as a separate ordinance. This has not been discussed. Ordinance 297 2023-34. Ms. Rosalie, would you mind telling us about this one?
Yes, you guys. So we have been talking about for the last 6 months of the planning. This is the culmination of that, where new buildings coming in the commercial and industrial district in the urban or the city area to have certain guidelines on how their buildings will look when they present their building permits. So if you notice on the back page, on the back pages, there are pictures of different types of building materials for the exterior. So what we're asking them to do is to have at least 60% of the side of the building that's facing the road, so that people can see that as they're coming by. 60% to be at least of the confirmed or the secondary building material. And then we will see also that there is a listing of the materials that are not desired in the use. Now, why is this important? Well, we're looking at what is the sustainability of the building materials on there? How long does it last? Will it have easy maintenance? Or will it follow the need to repair? So the different building materials, the preferred list are those that are long-standing, they're good to wear, and they're attractive. And basically they match what we have already in the county. If you notice the new buildings that have been coming in, they're matching what this is asking them to be. Do you have any questions on what the various building materials are or the design of what this is doing? Yes, sir.
One question, you mentioned in the urban service area, where is that in?
Commissioner.
I was asking Ms. Rosalie, but check.
just the title, if you look at it's an ordinance to amend the zoning ordinance, Hartsville, Trousdale, or Hartsville, Tennessee, article, supplemental provisions in there. It's doing the ordinances of Hartsville. That's the separation between the counties being Trousdale County, resolutions versus Hartsville ordinances.
Yes, sir.
Is it not my understanding that currently we've hired an individual to combine all those and make it one where we don't have an urban and a county anymore?
You're
Make a
correct,
big
we
vision.
have used a resource, Mr. Rick Gregory, who is helping the Codes and Zoning Committee to combine both the Hartsville ordinance and the Trousdale County ordinance. Once that's happened, again, this is designed just for what is in the city limits, not necessarily in the whole county. But
Mr. Gregory.
Follow up to Mr. Gillies' question, I said, you know, y'all are working on combining those, and as I understand where y'all are finding, and I've heard this concession through the planning meeting, where there are conflicts, the more restrictive one is what y'all are going with. So when it's rewritten, this will apply countywide, because it's more restrictive than we don't have anything as present.
well, you know, that's a very interesting point that you're making, but also we're finding that certain things do need to be annotated in our ordinances when they're combined. One is definitely gonna be for the Hartsville city limits, and then what is also gonna be for the Trousdale County area. And it will be identified in the ordinances as such.
Yes, sir.
So there's also other things that are gonna be coming out that will still be urban district specific. Your C1 for the downtown area, that is not going to be expanded out into the county. It will be urban district only. This will be put in there if it is passed by this body. It'll be put in there just for the urban district. There's nothing we're doing in the combining of anything to rewrite ordinances unless we bring it before this body for approval, because there was a conflict. There are things that are different for agricultural in the county versus agricultural in the urban. We're working through the process to still keep that separate, because there's a reason why you would have things spread out more in the urban, in the county versus in the urban. So this is meant coming out of the planning. There was discussion during the planning meetings of doing this countywide, and it was voted upon and shot down. The majority of planning wanted to keep this just in the urban, just like the 60%, that was voted on. Some of us wanted 70%, 60 is what passed. When we were doing this, we did several votes, several motions to make sure that everyone had a say in all those meetings, and that this was a cohesive document of everyone's will, trying to come to the same standard of just having a minimum appearance standard in the urban area.
Any further questions?
I got a few different questions.
Yes, sir.
Bill Rosalie, the same here, George. Probably ask this week on this, but. First of all, who's gonna pay for these materials if the business owner does not want to install these materials? Is the committee, is the government? Because you know, when you sit there and look at how you got something to say about this, it's very funny. You know, you go around from Industrial Park Drive and you take it all the way out. See a lot of different businesses out there. All of them has aluminum and metal. It's awful funny that our brand new water department is aluminum and metal siding as well. Go around and look at different county buildings, metal siding. So you got somebody that's trying to create a livelihood for his family, and just say he wants to do it correctly. He wants to come, he wants to buy property in a commercial industrial zone, and he wants to put up a tool and die shop. Why can't he put up this type of material? Why can't he put up a garage with a pole barn kit and have a livelihood for his family? This isn't worth the paper it's written. And this right here, I'm gonna tell you, is nothing but government overreach at its finest. And Mr. Thomas, I know you'll have something to say on But you can get on there and tell your 20 followers, see if they got some volatility. Because this is the second time this has come up with this. And it's actually just pitiful. It's pitiful that we're spending taxpayer dollars on this type of crap. I'll get it for you.
Yes, sir.
So these regulations on the road fronting sides of buildings are the least restrictive of Wilson County, Rutherford County, Sumner County, Davidson County. The least restrictive. 90% of the buildings already in existence on McMurray Boulevard were already built this way. What we're trying to do is to keep people from coming in, building the cheapest possible building that they can build so that they can be the most profitable. The prime example of that is we have 2 Dollar Generals built in Trousdale County. We have one here in urban that is 90% metal building. We have one out in the urban area that is 60% brick on the front of the building. Why? Why did they use the cheaper material in town and the more expensive out there? You know, the 2 different people built it, so I get that. Our point was to have a minimal standard. Now, to say that it's, you know, just worthless and government overreach and, okay, well, let's just not have any regulations then. Let's just do away with all zoning and you can build whatever you want, regardless of how it affects your neighbor's property value, regardless of how it affects the county's value, because you can just do whatever you want.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I would point out also this limited material. If this passes, and obviously it doesn't apply to the buildings currently in place. Walgreens, you know, is like, you know, they wouldn't be able to build that. You can't tell me that's ugly. The admin building at the prison, I'm pretty sure it's the split face concrete block. They wouldn't be able to put that out there if we're going to take. Would we really risk telling businesses, you know, oh, we don't like what you. And what about the Dollar General down here? Planning didn't ask. If planning had asked them, what's it gonna look, what are you gonna build it with? That problem could have been solved right there because planning didn't do its job. Or its due diligence.
Yes, sir.
For clarification, planning did do their job. They brought in one set of plans showing and describing the building in one way and then built it in another. We actually had the building inspector actually had to go back and make them honor their original plans in the way they did the surround for the trash. Because they ended up saying that they were going to do the block that matched the building. But what the builder actually did when he realized, well, there's not really any ordinances here making me do that, well, I'll just put wood fencing around. So because we approved the building plan, we were able to go back and at least make them do that. People are coming in and realizing they don't have any regulations in Trousdale County, so they're putting up the absolute cheapest in the county. And they're taking advantage of us versus other counties. And if that's what we want to do, because we're just so desperate, I mean, we've got $1 million homes being built in Trousdale County now. We're not the same Trousdale County from the 80s and early 90s. People actually want to come here because they're wanting to get away from the congestion down in Nashville. And they want to live in the Tennessee, Middle Tennessee area. And we're only an hour away. We have attributes. We don't have to just bend over and take it from businesses coming in here, trying to do the cheapest amount to make the most profit because we're little old Trousdale County.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Kerr, you want to speak?
These same businesses in the other counties, have all brick buildings. They're not gonna not come to Trousdale County because they have to build the same thing in Trousdale that they build in other counties. And they're even getting to build it less. These are $1 million corporations that we're talking about. multi-million dollar corporations. We want our town to look good. Also,
This is the reason they call it a work session. You got something you want, an opinion you want to offer, this is the time to do it. Commissioner
Some of
Noller?
these $1 million corporations, if they got these buildings out here, it's got this cheap material on the side of them, they're not gonna come and build them a big fine building next to a piece of junk that's gonna fall down or look ugly. So that, then you don't get, we always wonder, how come we don't get those businesses? How come we never get those businesses? Because we don't restrict them to have good looking buildings. If they have good looking buildings, they'll build a good looking building beside it.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
And one thing also, I've also been told that the next update to the ICC construction codes are going to contain some kind of wind, which is, you know, basically where your building has to be able to stand up if a tornado, you know, not gonna send something through it. So if that's the case, that kind of renders a lot of this useless.
Look at that point, they're very constant, you just have like, there's new codes and we want to put that at risk for the businesses that are coming. They are looking at updating codes.
So 2018 right now, what is it, 2023?
Any further?
Everybody coming in building this is. There are plenty of home businesses, you know, people.
who agree with that?
Any further discussion?
I just like it how we're looking at the wealthy big businesses, and we're looking at the person just starting out. I like it how it's all, you know, since Dollar General did that in front of that subdivision over there, everybody gets this same treatment. That's not how it should work. That's not how it should work at all. You got people trying to come out and start a business, trying to do it the correct way, instead of just doing it on their own farm or at their house, and just go about it that way, because nobody's going to enforce this stuff. So here we are. This is government overreach. It is plain and simple. It's me telling you, I don't like the way that building looks, so you're gonna do what I tell you. I can't wait till the houses. I can't wait till it comes residential. We don't like your house, sir. I'm gonna bring that. That's what it's good.
Any further discussion? Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I was curious whether or not, maybe if there's something along the line that we could say like, hey, your building material must last this many years. Something like that maybe could help the situation instead of being like specific on one type of material or another. We're saying like some materials can't come in. What about saying it must?
We have a speaker. We have a
Like, as
speaker
long
speaking,
as
please.
it's long as you can use what material you use. That's-
Thank you. Someone else? Yes, sir. Mr.
I
Noller.
believe that I've been on the commission, on the zoning for a long time, and I can't remember any time that a person's gonna build a subdivision that we told him what he wanted to build it out of. He built it. If he don't want, if he don't build it out of good stuff, then he's not gonna sell it. But we've never told anybody what they. Now, they give us plans where they're gonna put it, they got the water, gonna have, all that stuff, heat and air, you know, heat and everything, or all that stuff. We've never told them what they built it out of.
Mr. Gully?
Do I read correctly in this, that the face of the building is a lot of what we're discussing right now, but that the entire building fits into the prohibited materials, it could not be on any of those, do I read that correctly?
Bruce Lee?
Your question is, you're saying, can any of the building be built out of the?
Prohibited materials, exterior,
No.
that's what I thought. So, for example, any of the buildings we currently have in our industrial park, building that was built, the, Amazon Fulfillment Center, I guess people go by places like that from time to time, it's built out of metal siding. aluminum siding, aluminum panels, metal siding, that couldn't come here, is what we're saying. In our industrial park. So what's out here right now, the meat packing plant would not be able to be built under these current pieces. With that type of siding on the entire building. We're not just talking about the face, we're talking about the entirety of the building. So
I'll
I'm
let
not sure.
Mr. Thomas answer that question.
So for the meatpacking plant, it sits in a triangle of two roads. So being road fronting, the side that faces Old Hall Town and the side that would face, the industrial there, those two would have to have one of the preferred metals 60% up on both sides because of those two road faces. The rest of the building could be as is,
With prohibited materials.
not with prohibited material, but with limited materials.
Further questions? Opinions? Have an opportunity to vote on this next Monday night. Yes, sir.
I will just ask when this comes for a vote. If someone will make a motion to approve it so that a yes is a yes and a no is a no. So it's easier for us to
Your point is well taken. Because in some situations, a no would be a yes and a yes would be a no, depending on how it was stated.
yeah, I believe earlier in this year, I specifically made a motion on something to approve something so that it could be voted down, so.
Your point is well taken, Commissioner. Someone else on this issue before we move forward. Coming to, I'm sorry, yes, sir.
And so instead of the body taking this and just shutting it down, if you like most of it, if you don't like some of the materials on one list or the other, by all means, make an amendment. Move one, or three over to another one. We worked really hard on it, but at the same time, this body is what gives the information. We did the research, we put the time in to give you the best that we thought was for the county, but it's this body's decision to make that final decision.
Thank you, Commissioner. Under item D, budget amendments, this was discussed considerably in budget and finance, and it was moved by budget and finance to postpone these two issues until the next budget and finance committee, so it will not be coming before the court on Monday evening. We'll look at notaries and then other business, which would be the proposed wheel tax could be discussed again. I guess it could be put in the council. Or do you think we've had sufficient discussion in budget and finance?
Now's the time, if anybody wants to bring it up, I suppose, but it's, obviously it's not right for anyone to make a decision on. There's nothing before you to make a decision on in the month of September.
Then we'll ask for public, yes, sir.
Patrick Bell, I know there was a little bit of discussion during budget committee on the sales tax. I think I'd asked previously, didn't that have to be at a general election? Were you able to check on that?
To answer your question, I believe that's correct, and there is obviously it has to be by referendum. I also learned that any resolution that we put forth, the Department of Revenue will need to really approve that along with the commission, the way I understand that now. And that was after speaking with one of our CTAS consultants.
I know the original discussion had been trying to get a wheel tax on the March ballot. Is that likely at this point?
Very, very, very highly unlikely at this point.
And it doesn't have to get on the ballot if we vote it in. And the only reason it would go to the ballot would be if someone got a petition. And I've had several of us have had constituents say that we would like to make those decisions. And not for us to just specifically ask it to go to a referendum, that we were elected to make those decisions.
Yes, sir.
And follow up on his first point, I'm gonna read an email that I received from a constituent, and I think most of y'all got this same email. As a former commissioner, I know and empathize with what your job entails. Decisions, especially big picture ones, are often difficult. With the mandates about a new jail and other pressing expenditures on the immediate horizon, I am urging you to pass the wheel tax, not send it to a referendum. A wheel tax is a fair tax. Many more people who get the same goods and services from county government are vehicle owners than are property owners. What will happen if a wheel tax referendum fails? The only other way to pay for big ticket items is through a major property tax increase. As a commissioner, I would much prefer to be in the position of spreading costs out with the wheel tax, sunset or not, than having to vote on a substantial property tax increase. Trumbull County High School was built and paid for through a wheel tax. It did go to referendum, but only barely passed. You were elected to make the best decisions for your district and for the good of the whole, and to make hard decisions. Please make the most prudent decision by passing the wheel tax.
Questions, comments?
I mean, I could read 20 or 30, maybe more of that, comments, and emails people want. Do I need to read all them tonight?
That probably wouldn't be in the best interest of the court to read them all.
You know, I'll read this one. We, the county, need to be voting on the wheel tax. I'm not opposed because I don't know any other options besides increasing property taxes. And quite frankly, more people own cars than land. But before it's even brought to a vote, there should be specifics. Even if the price may change, I want to see the bids on how much these things are going to cost, where they will be, how long the tax will last. And if this tax will fund the salaries that will come with the new facilities, because they won't fund themselves. Then I get asked the question, who is it that's wanting to vote within the commissioners and didn't want the people to vote? Many. And these are people not from my district. They're from everybody's district in here.
I've said in here more than once, and I would prefer us to do it ourselves. I mean, I stand by that.
And I've said more than once that I don't have a problem with this tax. I have a problem with the way that it's done and the way it's presented. I believe it should be presented correctly.
Your point is well taken. Your points are well taken, gentlemen. Any other comments? Hopefully, I am meeting, well, not hopefully, I'm meeting with Mr. Jim Langford from Spirit this week. And I will be pressing him to get us some solid figures as to what we will be looking at going forward with this jail. In exhaustive research, I found out that these jail projects can get out of hand quickly, and if they're not closely managed. And so I will soon be bringing you some real numbers and some real options. And we can make some decisions and be able to inform the public what we're up against. Yes, ma'am.
And I like the location a lot. I'm not, but I just wonder, does it cost more to refit a place than to build from scratch? That's what I would want to, I'm talking about the jail. That's what I would want to know, numbers on. Is it best just to get new land, build it, or to refit?
And that's what Mr. Langford's working on, and that's the numbers we'll bring to you.
Okay.
We'll bring those options to you. Because if you go to new land, you're thinking about sewer and water and a lot. Yeah, yeah. We will bring you those figures and those options. Yes, sir.
Can we make sure when we discuss those figures, we discuss those figures with the cost of property?
Yep, absolutely.
Please make sure. those-
Absolutely. Any property we're looking at would be inclusive of the entire project. And we'll look at the best options. Anything else before we adjourn? Not, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Second.
motion is not debatable. All in favor, stand up. Thank you.